Hey everyone, thanks a lot for coming this afternoon. I'm Randy Jones. I'm the Executive Director of Alabama, home of the Space and Rocket Center, Mercedes, Honda, Toyota's new plant for 10 acres of building the new hybrid motor. So we got a lot going on in Alabama, and I'm real proud of it. But I want to tell you a real quick thing about this guy. Have you ever found something you dug up and you thought, man, look what I found? And you show it to your friends, say, look what I got, and they try to find it too and they can't? Ran across this guy a year or so back, had no idea what I stumbled across till he started talking to dealers. So I tell all my executive directors, you need to get him to come talk and work with your dealers because he's a real deal. So y'all enjoy him a lot. You're going to get a lot out of it. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Hold on, Randy. Here you go. That was way too nice. Thank you so much. Hey, I wanted to, first off, even before he leaves, I wanted to thank Randy. He has actually gone above and beyond as an executive director to help his membership out. He has made available 763 dealers in the state of Alabama for me and my team to come in and help. Not only him, but I don't see him in here yet, but he's on his way in, is Henry Mullinax. Has also gone above and beyond to help us get the word out and to help. The way this started real quickly was there were some tragedies involved in Georgia, the state of Alabama, some families who were very successful, very profitable car dealerships had tragic events happen. And the runner of the dealership, the owner, is gone. And so the family is left to pick up the pieces. There wasn't adequate planning. Matter of fact, there was no planning. They go into bankruptcy. They go into hardships. Their families are dissolved of all the inherent wealth that they've spent all this time to pick up and do. And so somehow my wife in the back met Henry Mullinax at a convention last year at Florida, got to talking, what we did, how we do it, got us involved with Randy, and Randy's kind of taken this and run with it. So I have a lot to thank for Mr. Jones and then Mr. Mullinax, of course. So thank you. First off, as we're starting this presentation, it's titled, Are Your Affairs in Order? The Value of an Estate Plan. On my left is probably the smartest person that I know. That is all the compliments in the world. She is an estate tax attorney. She's one of the best I've ever encountered. Our firm has been in existence since 1986. And Andy, the owner of our firm, I can tell you would speak highly of her as no one he's ever come across who knows what she knows in regard to estate tax planning. She is, by the grace of God, part of our team. There's no doubt. She comes with us on every case that we do, everything that I do. She evaluates, looks at plans, documents, and does everything as a part of our team. So I would pose the question to her, and it may be a better question to her. What happens to the value of your estate if you don't have a plan?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. You guys have chosen the right session, one of 7, I understand, going on at this time, and thank you for coming here. I think the things that you will hear today will be invaluable to you, your family, and your business planning. So the very long answer to his very short question is, there is a plan for your estate. Either you have one or state law and the courts have one for you. So you've worked very hard, and we'll talk about this towards the end of the presentation, to build your business, your dynasty, your legacy, and then because you didn't plan properly to pass that to the next generation or to do your own estate planning, then the laws that are in place in your state will take care of that for you. And really what that means is you won't have any input as to where your assets go. So as Mark continues to talk through the presentation and as we circle back around towards the end, I want you to kind of keep that in mind as we're talking. Your estate's going to pass, and your business is going to pass, and your dealership's going to pass. The question is it going to go to the people that you want it to go to? And are you going to have any input into how that is done? So we're going to tell you a little bit about that as we go along and just circle back to some case studies towards the end. But the answer is there is a plan. The question becomes whether you had any input in it.
So hopefully this week you have some peace, maybe some relaxation. I know next week you go back to buying the car right, selling the car right, payroll, taxes, everything like that. Take this week to listen to your peers, get some ideas, some fresh ideas. Maybe listen to a speaker or two of how you can hopefully change your life a little bit or plan for the future. So really what we're going to talk about as we go through this is plan A. Everyone has a plan A. It may be in their head. It may not be transcribed. It may be you talked about it with your spouse. Plan A is what you want to achieve in the future. Well, as we go through that, plan A for one of our clients looked like this. The boat's actually titled Plan A. That's what he wanted to do. That was his plan A. And as he progressed into retirement, he knew where he was going. There's the second thing that typically is there that no one talks about, and it's plan B. Plan B happens more than plan A, I can promise you. Because plan A is a lot of times in your imagination, either from the starting of the business, the middle of the business, or the end of the business. You know what it is, but you've never put it down on paper, or you've never taken the steps to accomplish plan A. So plan B becomes the default. Now this is funny. This is from The Onion, which is just a more comical, news site. The average person's life plan can withstand 25 seconds of direct questioning. This is a true story. Last week, I'm with an independent dealer, and it's a beautiful lot. He's 55. We're walking around his lot, and it's great. He just built a new building. He's got cars everywhere. And I said, "What are you doing with this?" He goes, "Oh, I'm giving it to my niece and nephew." I said, "Really?" I said, "Okay." He said, that's what we're doing. My wife and I have no kids. We're giving it to my niece and nephew." "Okay. Do you have anything written down?" And he goes, "No." I said, "Okay. All right." And he just kind of kept talking about his business and everything. I said, did they have any money to buy you out?" "No, I don't know. I don't think so." "Okay. But they want to be in the car business?" "Well, my nephew does, but my niece doesn't." "Okay." I said, "So you're just going to give this to them. You don't have a plan to maybe them purchase you out over time, what you're going to do with it?" He goes, "No." He said, "But I did hire my CPA. He's in there selling cars now for me." I said, "Okay." I said, "What did he say about that?" He goes, "Nothing. He just told me I had taxes due last year." I said, "That's exactly right." I said, "Listen, if you're looking to adopt, let me know if you're just going to be giving away millions of dollars of assets. Wouldn't it be more prudent to develop a plan with them on what they want to do, how they can do it in a tax-efficient manner, and ultimately pay you out for your retirement?" Because what he was going to do the next week, he was going to buy a yacht. Wouldn't it be easier to buy the yacht, to afford it, with someone else paying for it? He said, "Yeah." He said, "Maybe I don't have everything worked out. Maybe we need to talk." This is stressful for some. The U.S. debt clock, high left, 22 trillion, billion, whatever that number is. It's a big number. Right beside it is the number that the U.S. government is associated with most of us. If my eyes are telling me right, 67,000 per person, every man, woman, and child, the government is basically assessed to this. So that number just keeps growing. This was taken about a month ago. I'm sure it's probably a little bit bigger by now. Here's some thoughts on accomplishing your plan A, to put it into action. 1, know what you want to accomplish. Whatever that is, your plan A, know what you want to accomplish. What steps are necessary to accomplish that? More often than not, in your world, You look in a microscope. You look at buy the car right, sell the car right, everything else that goes on, and you look in this window. What you need to do to accomplish plan A, or to accomplish what's necessary in the future, is to have the ability to look inside of a telescope. You need a team of people around you that says, the stuff you're doing today, this is what it looks like 15, 20 years from now. Second, stay focused. Do one thing and do it well. Don't do a bunch of different things. Do one thing and do it well. Third, be consistent. Do that one thing every day. It doesn't have to be all day, but do it every day. Be consistent. Fourth, probably the most important thing is the fourth point. Have the right tool to accomplish the job. And I'll paraphrase that. Have the right person to accomplish the job. If you're going to cut down a tree, you want to go in the back, take 3 or 4 swings at it every day. You're being consistent. You know what you want to accomplish. You want the tree to come down. And eventually, the tree will come down if you do it every day. Don't take a bat to cut the tree down. Don't have the wrong person doing the wrong job and expect a different result. So when you look at your staff and you look at what you're doing, be sure you have the right person to accomplish the right job. Fifth, and finally, don't quit. People get discouraged. People stop. Just don't quit. Now, this next slide, I'm not going to read it to you. I'm going to let you digest it, read it. The last 2 sentences. Oregon Senator Ron Wyden wants to tax capital gains as regular income, meaning rates up to 37%. He would also tax unrealized gains, perhaps decades before the investor sells. Last bit of bad news, and then we'll move into some fun stuff. This is the U.S. marginal tax chart from 1913 to today. As you can see looking at this, we're in a relatively low marginal tax rate. As the history goes, and history tends to repeat itself, you guys as small business owners, when you get out here, what is that going to look like? Do you think it's going down? I wouldn't think so. I don't know. So looking into your retirement window, how as a business owner do you leverage your dollars to pay less taxes in the future? This is 2 statements that I get all the time. Most, if not all people think, hey, when I retire, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket. Man, I hope not. That means you're making less money. That is not the goal of retirement. Second, I'm going to spend less money in retirement. My wife's in the back. Again, I mentioned that. And I can go back through our register, and when she spends money, it's Saturday. What day of the week do you spend most money in every week? Saturday. Retirement is 7 days of Saturdays. That's what it is. And you may think you're going to spend less money, you're going to have grandchildren, you're going to have children, you're going to have things come up, and you just want to have a good time. You didn't spend all this time, labor, energy, and money to live poorly in retirement. Plan. Planning is much more efficient than a reaction. Ask any accountant. A reaction results in check boxes going, hey, we owe this to the government. Planning, if we do this moving forward, we may not have to check those boxes and pay this to the government. Planning is much more efficient, much more efficient. Now, back to plan A and back to plan B. For me, I'm not a car guy like you guys of knowing ins and outs of all vehicles. I know I like this car. This to me is something fun to drive. I would love to drive this. That's plan A. I don't know what kind of car that is either, but that's plan B. And like I said, planning is efficient. The reactions are expensive. There is 100% certainty, 100% certainty that you're leaving your business. There is no doubt about that. Most haven't planned for it, and there's no dress rehearsal. There are 3 doors that you're going to walk through. We are all going to walk through as small business owners. 1, you're going to sell it to an insider. You're going to sell it to a son, a daughter, a niece, a nephew, maybe a key employee, maybe someone who's invested in your business, been there for 20 years, and you want them to continue on your business. You're going to sell it to an outsider. Much more profitable, probably, as a net paycheck, because they've assessed your books, you've assessed your books, you've done an evaluation of your business, you know how much it's worth, you know what you're getting, you leave. Or you're going to keep it till death. Now I have a couple clients, we have a couple clients that say, I want to die at my desk. That's my plan. That's my plan A. They're very serious. That's what they want to do. But even then, you better have a plan in place. Whenever we get to that point, I ask every dealer, do you want to build a dynasty? Do you want to build something that is pointed to you and it lasts for, what's a dynasty last now? In football and basketball, a dynasty lasts 5 years, maybe. College football dynasty maybe lasts 5 years, 10 years if you're Alabama.
As an Auburn fan, that's
Sorry.
painful.
I know.
That's painful.
I got you. So, yes.
I'm holding you to that
I know.
5-year deal.
That's right. Saban's got to leave at some point. Do you want to build a dynasty or do you want to build a legacy? And that's what every one of you need to answer. Because a dynasty points to you, it points to this, and sooner or later, when you leave, it leaves. A legacy could be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Some of you sitting in the room were started in the car business by your father or grandfather. You want to pass it on to your children. That's a fundamental principle of planning. We need to know, as we walk through with you, what do you want to build? How important is it to you to build the legacy? Why is it so difficult to do this? Why does so many people, not just car dealers, why does everybody put their head in the sand and go, I don't want to do that. That's the last thing I want to do. I want to go sell a car. I'm going to make money. Leave me alone. First, there's a lot of advisors who give micro advice inside of silos. You have your investment guy, your insurance guy, your CPA, or your attorney. All of them are giving you very good advice inside of their silo. How many times have they all sat at a table and discussed you for your benefit? I'll venture to say most or never. That's not their job. Their job is to give you solid advice. The advice they give is probably really good, but it may be contradictory to what the other people are giving you, and you don't figure that out until it's too late. We have a client that we're going to talk about in a case study coming up. If he could put a statement above his wall, it'd be, I wish I knew. That would so be the thing behind his desk. I wish I knew. It's the largest transaction of your life. 99% of people out there, the largest transaction of their life is what? It's a house. So if they're lucky, if they're blessed, they buy a $500,000 house. That's a nice house. That pales in comparison to what you guys are doing. The largest transaction of your life is probably between 5, 10, 15, 20 million dollars that you're trying to evaluate and trying to realize your labor and the cash value of your labor. High stress, anxiety, just don't want to do it. And typically it's high stress and anxiety because of the lower right box. There's family dynamics. There is a son who's in the business and a daughter who's not in the business. There's 3 sons in the business who don't get along. There's multiple things going on that dad, granddad, someone is trying to make equal. We're trying to make them whole. So there's a lot of dynamics that are going on here, and that's why it's so difficult. What does it look like? You want to protect your biggest asset. You want to protect the source of cash flow. This business, that's what this is. It is your largest asset, and it produces all of your cash flow. You may still be in the growth phase. That's wonderful if you are. You know how much easier it is to plan successfully if you're still in the growth phase? If you're knowing that this may happen, come up, I want to success it to my son, my daughter, or whoever, but you're still in the growth phase, we can make plans, like I was telling you before, in the telescope. Listen, I want to get out of this in 10, 15, 20 years. How do I do it in the most tax-advantaged way? The most valuable asset you have inside of that company, well, are its people. You don't want to lose a long-time person who's been in there helping you grow business. I'm sure it's quite difficult to retrain a salesperson or to get them up, a quality salesperson. So we look at what we can do to retain them. And ultimately, we look at how do we exit out of them? How do we exit out of the business to realize your life's full work? The business was started to create cash flow. That's why you're doing it. You're there to make money. It lives on its cash flow, is valued on the cash flow, and all the roads lead to the net proceeds that result in cash flow. That's what we're doing it for. We want to increase it. It's the biggest asset of your life. We want to take care of your family, the families of your employees. Therefore, it must be protected. One of my best friend was the president of Alabama's association last year. And thank you, I think Randy stepped out, but Todd Oden was supposed to introduce me tonight. And we've been best friends for 12 years. He got a phone call in the middle of the night, and they're on a plane back to Alabama due to a family thing. What he has told me for 12 years, he said, I am terrified of getting sued. He said that I'm out here working and doing everything I can do, and someone can take it away just like that. And he said, how do I protect myself from, one, someone ripping me off, or two, an event actually happens, but I don't want to lose everything. Todd, he don't mind me telling you this. He's 53 years old. He was washing cars with his dad when he was 9 years old at his lot. So he's worked at that lot since he's been 9 years old up until 53. Same lot, same place. Dad's still living, still doing it all. And I can tell you, I spoke to his dad too, and they say the same thing along with the 30 other dealers we're working with. I don't want to get sued. I don't want to lose everything. So when you look at this slide, you see it's your biggest asset. What I see is the bottom thing, going, it must be perfectly protected. That can be with legal documents. It can be with financial tools. It can be with a multitude of things, but it better be protected. So really what we're going to talk about here, and Anna is going to talk about, is we have an existing client that great guy, great family. He tried to piecemeal planning. So what we tell everyone whenever we go and deal with somebody and we sit down with someone and we work through someone is that your entity, your asset, your dealership is too big for one person to come in and say, I got you. It's not possible. If someone walks into your dealership and says, I can do this, shake their hand, tell them thank you, and leave, because they can't. It's too big. It's too important. You need a team of people around you who's willing to help you, who's willing to communicate with the other hands that you have going on in your life, your CPA, your insurance guy, your investment guy, your attorney. You need a team around you. It's that important. What we learned and what we're going to talk about, this guy had a friend who was his attorney, who gave him advice because he was an attorney. He wasn't an estate tax attorney, he was an attorney. As we walk through this, you'll see how much it actually cost him of trying to shave dollars off the front side and what he's going to have to pay on the back side. So with that, kind of let's walk over an actual case study of a client.
Excellent.
Sound
Thanks,
good?
Mark. Yeah, so how many of you like to spend money? How many of you like to lose money? Yeah, so we don't have a magic wand. We can't proclaim and create you geniuses of tax and estate planning. But what we can do is educate you on how to build a winning planning team. Let me have that next slide there. So what we have up now is something that I can give presentations on for 2 and 3 hours, and that is building a winning planning team. You all have worked hard to build your business, and now you want to accomplish your personal and business succession planning. Mark gave you some great advice on a couple of those slides. He started out really with one great story about off of The Onion, the comedic site. And really the moral of that story is that man's plan fell apart in 25 seconds, right? Just by talking to the right guy here that led him to the next step of trying to build a winning planning team around him. And then he talked about the Oregon senator that said, we want to tax here and tax there. And really all of you are part of small business. You're all small business owners, but everybody wants a piece of your pie, right? So how are we going to divide that pie up? Because the pie's not going to get any bigger. And the question you have to answer for yourselves as you're doing your planning for your family, for your business, is do you want to be fair or do you want to be equitable? Or do you want to be both? And we can't help you accomplish your goals until you decide how you want to treat your children, how you want to treat those in your family. And those are two very different, can be two very different answers. Fair and equitable are different. And so until you get your goals and tell us those, we can't help you to get that plan in place. Mark also had a great historical marginal tax rate slide up there that saw us going up and down and up and down. And right now we're down. So where do you think we're headed? Back up, right? And so how do we plan for that? Not only personally, but in our business succession planning. And that's why we're going to build that team around you to help you do that. And then he talked about the whys, the things that are in the way that can make it so difficult for us to accomplish what it is that we want to accomplish. And the two things there that I think were the most important that he listed were all those advisors that you may have surrounded yourself with that are operating in silos. They don't have you at the heart of that, and with you in control of bringing those people around that planning table. The ones on the sides come in and out, your spouse, your kids. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not, to help you make those decisions. The four corners are your anchors, and all that is about your values. Okay, so you've built this business, and now you want to pass this on. You want to go on to your plan A and your plan B, your retirement, and the things that you want to accomplish, but you have a job to finish. My son plays football, and they have these shirts that say, "Finish the drill." You've been good stewards. You're building a legacy. Are you just going to leave it? Or are you going to continue and finish what you've started there? So the family dynamics was the other cornerstone of Mark's slide that he talked about right there. So great advice. Be consistent and do it every day. I teach a class at the university, and our mantra of the class is ERA, early, regularly, and aggressively. And that's how you should approach your business. That's how you should approach your planning and your succession planning. You've built this wealth by doing things early, regularly, and aggressively. And you've done it all by yourself. And so many of you have done that. And so why would you need this complex legal stuff now? You built all this by yourself. You didn't do it with a lawyer, right? So why do you need a lawyer now? Because you built a car dynasty. You built an automobile industry, and you're an expert at that. But you're not an expert at personal and business succession planning. And you won't be, and you shouldn't be. Wise man once told me, don't do your own surgery and don't draft your own will. And it's a fact. In 21 years, I have never had anyone who drafted their own will that did it correctly. I thought I was going to have one last week. 20-something pages. Oh, I've had folks that are lawyers draft their own wills and mess it up. Forgot to waive the bond, forgot to name the executors and trustees, left little blanks in there. Things that cost them in the end. Maybe it cost you $1,500 or $2,500. We're about to tell you a story of a man that cost himself because he wanted to save on his estate plan, used his fraternity brother as a CPA, and his local lawyer to draft him a will. $300, $500, right? Could have probably gotten it all accomplished for less than $5,000 and gotten it done correctly. To reorganize his car dealership cost him $400,000 on a reorganization. We're going to walk you through that. Okay, so early, regularly, aggressively. Don't do your own surgery. Don't draft your own will. And don't piecemeal. Don't do those silos and go to an expert, right? You got a foot problem. You go to the eye doctor? No. Go to a specialist, right? Your divorce lawyer does not need to be doing your estate planning. So people say, well, I've got a friend who's a lawyer. They close real estate transactions. They can draft a will for me. They can pass my business for me. They can set up my business plan for me. How do you know if you're in the right structure for your business? Are you in a C Corp, an S Corp, an LLC taxed as an S Corp? Did your CPA make the right election? Are you doing family elections for your limited liability company? Do you even know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter if you know what I'm saying, if you've got the right people around you and you know who to go to. So these messes that get created are because people are trying to save money. They're being cheap. And they've done this business and worked hard at this business and built this business and saved pennies. Why would you throw it all away by not going to an expert? All over saving a little bit of money. No asset is more valuable than your children and your grandchildren. So you should have a plan that includes either passing that business to them or not. You should have a plan that includes how they're going to be taken care of physically and financially. And are those things in place? As we mentioned before, the statutory laws will determine where your assets go and also where your children or grandchildren go if your plan is not in place and your children do not have plans in place. For those of you that are familiar with Auburn, Alabama, we had a very significant tragedy happen in our town. The voice of the Auburn Tigers, if you follow college football, and his wife were killed tragically in an accident, leaving 2 children. And that very scenario, folks, those folks signed their wills on Thursday, and that wreck happened at 6:10 p.m. on Friday evening. Wow. Wow is right. Now, there was a plan in their will to take care of their children. and they had a minor child, and there was a plan there. There was not a plan outside that will. Had one of those parents lived, they did not have proper planning outside of that will to take care of their children. Had one of them still been alive, there would have been a court battle over that. Your will doesn't come into place until you die. And so you may have a situation where you can no longer run your dealership. Do you have the proper documents in place to do that? So your planning is not just a will or a trust, but having input along the way and having those documents that will deal with succession or even a temporary succession while you're still alive but maybe incapacitated. Maybe something has happened to you. Another client who was injured and for 14 weeks was in a coma, and there was no one to run his business, no one to pay the bills, because there weren't the proper documents in place to do that. And in case you haven't checked, your court system is probably very similar to ours, and they don't have emergencies. We have emergencies, they don't. And so to get someone to run that business was going to be such a long period of time. You didn't have the proper durable powers of attorney, nor the proper language inside of them to take care of. So not only do you have to have the document, it must have the proper language inside that document in order to take care of that. So back to what we first said, having input is a much better option than having the law make that decision for you. Mark said do one thing and do it well. Last I checked, it wasn't estate planning and business succession planning for you guys. So let's get that right team set up around you. Having the right tools to accomplish the job and the right team to accomplish the job. Let's look and see who those people are around that team. It includes not only attorneys, CPAs, insurance, philanthropic advisors, kids in and out, and again, your anchors at the four corners. And what are those anchors for? Really, this is all values driven, right? So you can't just have an attorney around there. Perhaps you're getting a divorce in the midst of all of this. You need a divorce attorney. Perhaps you're buying property. You need a real estate attorney. You're passing the business. You need a business succession and tax expert in there. All of those people, though, must not only know what your values are and the stewardship and the goals that you have, but theirs must be the same. So you may have people that move in and out, and you may not have the right fit when you first put that team together. Mark and I have worked well together setting things up for clients, but there may be times where these folks already have very good CPAs in place. You may already have a very good CPA in place that you bring to the table. I never draft a document that doesn't go past all of the advisors on your team. So if you've got an attorney or a CPA or a broker that's acting in a silo, you've got the wrong person, or you don't have enough people on your team. And so you want to build those around. Let's talk about that case study. Okay,
Yes.
So this particular client has multiple entities in their dealership. There are some C Corps, there are some S Corps, there are some limited liability companies. There is what I would call a parent company for the dealership. And then that parent company is doing business as ABC dealership and CDE dealership. There's one trademark, there's one employer identification number, but there's multiple dealerships under that involving different kids in the family. So son A under the first DBA, son B under the second DBA, and you guess the rest, they're not the Brady Bunch and they don't all get along, right? So at his death, he wants son A to take DBA dealership 1, and he wants son B to take DBA dealership 2. Sounds easy enough, right? Remember, one EIN, one trademark. There's no such thing as a DBA in our state. We make that up.
And here's even what he did. Got bad counsel 15, 16 years ago. He gave 15% to this son, 15% to this son, 15% to this son, because he thought he was, hey, they're all going to get along. We all get along. So now they own 15% of these little pies. Well, now they don't want to be in business with one another. Well, he can't give the entity because he doesn't own the entity. He gave it away. So we had to go in, unwind 15 years? 15 years of tax consequences So he became the owner again. They didn't become the owners, so he could give it away in a proper manner. He has, I can't tell you how many properties, 30 properties, multiple dealerships, all kinds of stuff. So now,
Yeah, so let's go back to the very beginning. Okay, so the CPA that he had was fraternity
Yes, it
brother
was
or
friend.
friend?
It was a friend.
Okay,
Yeah.
friend, fraternity brother. Hadn't filed the returns correctly to begin with. Some of them hadn't even been filed, right? The entities were all jumbled up. And the CPA hadn't looked at the documents. He's going off of what we'll call him Joe. Joe had said to him, oh yeah, I own this. My wife owns half of this. And as Mark said, he's given different percentages to the kids because, well, that's what somebody told him to do back when the estate tax exemption wasn't $11 million. Back when it was $1 million, that sounded like a great idea, right? And so he gave those percentages out thinking he had a great plan. Now when everyone doesn't get along and we need to divide all that up, as Mark said, we got to give it all back. Now what have we done? We've created a gift back to Dad. Now we got to file gift tax returns back to Dad. Now we got to value that business back to Dad. 30 different properties, dirt appraisals, business appraisals, all of this to get back in the hands of Dad. Okay, Dad, now let's make 3 different entities, right? 3 sons. Now we'll make this easy. To do a corporate reorganization has tax consequences unless all of those corporations have equal value. So we say, okay, Joe, we got to equal up the pots, right? You know what that's going to cost? $400,000 you need to come out of in cash to equal up these pots. Oh, but he saved $2,500 by having his friend draft his will for him. Wasn't that a savings? And guess what? He got set up in the wrong kind of entity, right? So now he's got C Corps and LLCs and S Corps, and these aren't taxed with S elections, and so he's got the wrong decision makers around the table, right? So how do you get the businesses set up correctly? Again, you don't have to know it. You just have to know who to go to, right? How do I know whether I want an S Corp or an LLC or a C Corp? Have you had your CPA run pro formas for you to say, what is it that I need to do? Are you doing those annual or semi-annual meetings with your team to say, what are the decisions I can be making now as I look forward into my business? This is what we want to do. Are you giving one child a portion of the business, and are you giving another child an equal amount in money? And is that portion of the business an opportunity that money can't buy? Who's going to take the debts? Because, oh, by the way, our friend Joe, who mixed everything up, the debts are all sitting in one entity for all of the other entities. Oh my goodness, what a mess, right? $2,500 savings. And it cost him big time in the end. And we're still not done unwinding all of this and doing it correctly. So let's go back to ERA, early, regularly, aggressively. And let's go back to what Mark said. He had counsel, but he didn't have good counsel, right? And so he didn't have all of his players on the same team. If he'd simply had that lawyer in the room with that CPA and that financial advisor with the folks handling his insurance and everything, they could have said, hey, what about this idea? Or what about that idea? And to have them all together and to know what your values are and whether you want to be fair or whether you want to be equitable. So one last thing, we can't wave the magic wand to tell you what to do. We also, by the way, cannot wave the magic wand to tell you what it's going to cost, right? Everyone wants to know what it's going to cost. But remember, when you go to get services, you're not buying an asset. You're buying time, right? And so in order to make that as efficient as possible, what you want to do is have your goals laid out, your values laid out, and the things that you want to accomplish laid out so that you can tell that story in an efficient manner and those folks can begin to work that plan for you. Want to take some questions maybe?
Well, I will, and I just wanted to tell everyone in the room, I work exclusively with independent automobile dealers. That's what I do. And so that's where I'm geared. Anna is part of our team, and we're happy to help you in any accord. We want you to get planning. Don't care if it's with us or anybody. We're here just to make sure that you get serviced. Once you get to work with us, Anna just made a good point. We want you to lay out your goals. That's part of my job. I help you lay out those goals. Because one of our first or second slides, it's the largest transaction of your life, and you do not have a dress rehearsal. You got one shot. I got 1,100 clients, so I've at least done this 1,100 times. Probably lost, didn't get every client I went and sat down with. So I probably have close to 2,000 transactions. Yes, sir.
Are y'all able to cross state lines?
I work from Maine to California. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so for the legal industry, it's a little bit different. You have to qualify and be licensed or have some qualifications in those states. And for me, that's true in some states, but not all states. And I can tell you where, maybe after if you want to come up.
Yes, sir. I travel all over the place, from east to west coast. It doesn't matter. Typically, I'll come meet you face to face, gather most of the information. Then from that point forward, either myself or I'll have someone on my team. I have teams accumulated in states that will come and help you with my supervision, or we'll do a go-to meeting directly with you. Yes, sir. Anything else? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So there's different types of trust. There's revocable trust and there's irrevocable trust or irrevocable trust. And so for some of the things that you might own, maybe some of your life insurance might be in an irrevocable trust for tax reasons, but there are a lot of good reasons to have a trust. And for me, I run through about 8 or 9 of those reasons. Some of it is smooth management, some of it is age, some of it is whether you own assets in another state to try to avoid probating your estate and going through an administration process in multiple states. But there's about 8 or 9 good reasons to have a trust. You can have spendthrift or creditor protections in those trusts. And so particularly like if there's a second marriage or things like that, if you want to hold particular assets for distribution for your children or grandchildren until certain ages, we can also embed a trust inside of a will, so it doesn't have to be a freestanding document, but there's always very good reasons to have that. And like I said, about 8 or 9 of those that if I were meeting with you for an estate planning meeting, I would ask questions targeted to that. And when I got done with my initial review, I would say, let's consider the possibility of maybe forming a trust for you, or let's consider maybe putting these assets into an entity for liability protection. So great question. Very good reasons to have those in some cases.
And what we refer to that as is we like to take an x-ray before we give a diagnosis. We'll sit and talk to you, gather some information. You don't walk into a doctor. Well, some people do. Walk into a doctor and say, hey, give me a shot. I have the flu. They typically like to gather some information first. That's what we do. We just take an x-ray before we give a diagnosis. Yes? Yes, we do. We have specific people who can help out with that in regards to if it's you, parents, what that looks like. But yes, ma'am.
Great questions, yeah. And all part of the plan too, so that's great.
Yes, because ultimately what we want to look at, people don't ever think about it, is am I going to have to take care of my parents? That's going to be a drain on you and your assets. You get the kids out of the house finally, and you have a couple years of happiness, and then all of a sudden you got to take care of parents. That becomes an emotional drain and a financial drain. So yes, we put that in part of planning as well, and questions that are asked. Anything else? You're letting me off the hook easy. I appreciate it.
Don't go lose your money.
Yeah. Hey, come see us. We'll be at booth 455. Come out and see us. Have a conversation. Thank you so much for your time.